Welcome to this video presentation of Multinational Logistic Support. After this presentation, you should be able to recall the definition of logistic footprint, the purpose of multinational logistic support, and the advantages and challenges to multinational logistic support. NATO seeks to reduce the total logistic footprint in operation. The logistic footprints can be described as the sum of the resources, personnel, equipment, functions, and activities for the logistics that support an operation. The size of the logistic footprint will vary depending on the logistic tasks. In the deployment and the redeployment phases of an operation, there is a need for a large logistic capability to enable and complete necessary logistic tasks. During the sustainment phase, however, the logistic footprint can be reduced. The slide illustrates the need of footprints throughout the duration of an operation. Optimized logistic footprints. The use of multinational logistics can optimize the overall deployment of the logistic resources. This is maybe the most important benefit of the multinational cooperation. Resource husbandry. Sourcing support from other nations can reduce the strain on an individual nation's organic military support system, particularly in terms of manpower and equipment. It enables nations to contribute fair share of the support. Reduced deployment package. Where deployment resources are at the premium, strategic airlift can be allocated to other assets, potentially advancing the force readiness in a theater. Specific nation's expertise. Where a nation has a specific logistic capability or expertise which is not easily available in the existing force, provision of this capability or expertise can enhance the operational success. Increased interoperability. Established interoperability is a prerequisite for efficient multinational logistics, which requires standardized practical practices, procedures, techniques, and a common language. This will enhance the ability of the NATO forces of partners, and other nations to train, exercise, and operate effectively together in the execution of assigned missions or tasks. Reduced costs. The use of multinational logistics can reduce the overall cost and can therefore benefit the contributing nations. Reduce competition for scarce local resources. Scarce resources are one thing. Another is contribution to high inflation by nations bid over each other when doing businesses with local companies. This might create a competition of the few available local resources, which in the worst case will create higher costs and less cooperation among the NATO forces. There are all kinds of multinational support options. Joint Logistic Support Group is per definition a multinational support option. Multinational support options can be implemented at different levels of command and to different degrees. The nations involved will make a case-by-case decision as to which, where, and when, and what kind of logistic that will be provided or supported. Logistic sorties. A nation might not be able to prepare or transfer the authority of logistic assets to a NATO commander, but might be prepared to provide a certain amount of percentage of her national services produced in the joint operation area or the respective area of responsibility. The provision of such logistic sorties is called upon by the staff of the NATO commander to whom the nation has decided to grant this provision. The nations retain full authority over the assets and assures that the appropriate delivery of these logistic sorties in cooperation with the receiver. Time sharing. A nation might not be able to prepare to provide multinational logistic support in a sustained manner. If appropriate, time sharing of the same provision between different nations are possible. For force planning purposes, nations need to indicate their readiness category and the duration of such provisions. We will in later presentation study the NATO Support and Procurement Agency, an organization that can support a NATO mission with all kinds of logistics. NATO Support and Procurement Agency is used when either the Joint Logistics Support Group or member nations have the capacity to deliver parts of the logistics. Contracting has become increasingly important to support of all NATO operations. Contractor support to operations are not a physical unit or organization, but pre-planned civilian contracting to perform selected logistic support services. Contracting is a significant tool that may be employed to gain access to additional resources and services, but it should not be used to replace military capabilities. Contractor support to operation is intended to fill the gaps in the deployed forces' capabilities. There are several barriers identified that hinder effective implementation of multinational logistics. This slide lists only some of the obvious ones. The most common barrier is not listed on this slide. That is lack of trust. Without trust, we will not achieve anything within multinational logistics support. We have in this presentation introduced you to the multinational logistics support. Key takeaway: multinational logistics support will reduce the burden on national logistic resources. Multinational logistic support do not reduce the NATO commander's responsibilities for the sustainment of the forces. Thank you for following this presentation.